recording? No, you're good.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. We are being live streamed.
We are on. And
Hey.
we're recording.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Everyday Riches Show. I'm your host, Barbara Ellison, and I'm a transformational life trainer, and I'm on a mission to make happiness the norm rather than the exception. Because I truly believe that each and every one of us deserves to lead happy, healthy, financially free, abundant lives. And that's what this show is about, finding the riches in your everyday, because sometimes our everyday is not necessarily quite so good. So we're going to work on and hear about ways to get that we see the riches in our everyday and not compare our everyday to somebody else's sizzle reel. So that's my big thing. So anyways, Jason, good morning. How are you doing
Good
today?
morning. What is up? I'm good. I'm good. I'm ready for some more everyday riches. I'm excited to meet Dave.
Yeah. Good morning.
Good morning.
So Dave, tell us about you and how you got, I love what you do. So tell us about how it is and how you got to be doing it and how you created your program.
Yeah. So I started a company called Tap Mental. And excuse me, my voice is cracky today. So yeah, so I'm educated. Geez, let me get my voice back. So
it happens to all of us.
Hold on, let me see if I can cough this out.
Right as we put him on the spot too, right, Barbara? We're like, go ahead and talk. And then it's like,
just go ahead and talk. And we've all been there. Look at that day. One day I called Jason. I said, Jason, I cannot lift my head.
Yeah, it happens.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But no, I was that kid, the tree climber back in the 70s and 80s, probably ADHD, dyslexia, all undiagnosed. So I had to figure out my own patterns, behavior patterns to navigate through that. So it ended up I wasn't a good student, but I love to learn. So I had a great math teacher in high school and an architecture teacher, and the two of them together collaborated. And I was thinking architecture. My dad was onboard electrician, the C-130s in Vietnam, and I was always tinkering with dad. And my architecture teacher is like, hey, why don't you try electronics? So I went into electronics class in my senior in high school, aced it, went right into a double E electrical engineering program, got out in 3 years, and which was surprising to me because I was a horrible student. I was like on the dean's list 2 or 3 times. I'm like, hey, I found my jam.
Yeah.
Got out of school, got into tech industry, went to Cisco Systems, NetApp data storage, and I was never like the detailed engineer, but I was the high level consultant that would help put packages together and services packages around. So I got the pleasure to work with Fortune 100 clients like, Walmart, Chevrons. So I learned about the oil and gas industry, the healthcare industry, the retail industry. So my hat was in the ring for 22 years dealing with customers at those levels. And then I found myself in my 30s, married to an amazing wife. We've been married 23 years. We had 2 kids. I was fat, I was miserable, and I realized I hated what I do. At the time, my oldest daughter was diagnosed autistic, and my youngest was diagnosed with dyslexia and dysgraphia. And I was like, okay, what is this all about? What is this neuroscience? And I just got obsessed with neuroscience, neuroplasticity. And also in the middle there, my dad threw me the DVD over The Secret. And watching that whole movie, I remember my childhood. My childhood was awesome. I wanted a bike. I would think about it in a week. I don't know how I got the money or a job or I cut grass and I had a bike. And it's just like, wow, it just resonated with me. It's like, how does this work? What is it all based on? And I learned all about energetic states, neuroscience, neuroplasticity. I went back and hung out with Dr. Matt James, got my master practitioner in neurolinguistics programming and hypnosis. And then I started working on my daughter and started my oldest daughter who's autistic, and we got huge improvements. And then at that time I got laid off from the tech industry, and my wife's like, hey, you've done all this work. Why not start your own agency? She's like, I know there's small businesses out there where the owners need to get out of their head. You've had 22 years of consulting. You understand business. You understand the market verticals. Why don't you hop in and start helping these small business owners get out of their crap? So, because they probably jumped into their business to create prosperity and freedom. And they're probably trapped under all the bull crap because of the stories that they've been loaded with through their life. So now I'm 5 years in. I've got another coach on the team. The company's called Tap Mental. We tap into your mental programming. And Barbara, you and I talked about this. A lot of our mental programming is the foundations laid by the age of 7.
Right.
And we have 60 to 70,000 thoughts a day. 95% of them derive from the programming up your first 7 years of life. So you're letting the 7-year-old version dictate your functionality in the background. And a lot of us don't even know it. You know, we have money stories, we have whatever it is, right? So that's where we come in. We help you realize the stories you're running in the background that's blocking you from taking action or taking too much risk or whatever it is. And then we take business practices and overlay it. So we get your crap out of the way, figure out the biggest pain point, and we move forward. I said a lot there. I apologize. I hope you can still hear me. But yeah, let me know what you guys heard.
Yeah.
I am fascinated. I love this work. I have been able to unravel a lot of challenges in my own life by going back to that 5, 6, 7-year-old, whether it's overcoming fear of making sales calls, kind of just so many things, especially growing up. I had an abusive dad, and there's so many things tied to just those beliefs from that 7-year-old that's dictating my life. And so I'm just so fascinated to hear more because you've done so much work in it.
Yeah. And I love that. I heard you say an abusive father. So probably what happened for you, it's like you were scared to take action because if you messed up, then you got ridiculed. But you were scared not to take action because if you didn't, you got your ass beat for that too. So it's like either you're being lazy or you're screwing up. Either way, you're wrong. So it's like you're just like a deer in headlights. It's like, and then you're not doing anything. Then your internal self-talk takes off of God knows what you were saying about yourself at that point, right? It's horrible.
Yeah.
And we all do it. We all think it's everybody else. This is me. I'm all alone. This is the crap I'm dealing with. Everybody's dealing with crap somewhere, right?
Right. Yeah. And that's like for me, and Jason has heard this story so many times. I didn't realize who I was until I was in my 60s. Okay. And the person who I am is very different than how I was brought up, because I was brought up in a very traditional family, and we just didn't do things the way that I like to do things. And, wear my bright glasses and my lipstick that matches my glasses and my, and just that I match. And it's like professional women don't wear bright glasses and, and red lipstick. And it was like, because that's not professional. Well, that when you turn on all of that for so many years, you believe it.
Yeah.
You believe it. And then all of a sudden it was like, all right, so who am I outside of all of those labels that I had put on myself?
It's funny you say that. What I heard you say there was that's not professional.
Right.
And this is what I was talking about. It's this invisible definition that's unidentified that we're trying to compare ourselves against. What's professional? And who made that definition?
And who right, exactly. Thank you.
Yeah. And it's like, my daughter will come in and say, well, they don't like me. Well, who specifically is they? Well, all of them. Well, give me a name. Like, let's start with the name. Because you can't solve a problem with them, right? The market's crappy. Well, what's specific about the market, right? Is it your market, another market, what vertical? Like, well, inflation. Well, how's it affecting you? Like, we get this programming from these noises in the background, and we just make an unconscious decision. Well, it's not the cards for me because of the current situation. No, let's look at the situation. How is it impacting you? What's one thing you can do that you know you need to do but don't want to do? That's the big question right there.
And how much of that, like that root cause, that one thing solves so many of their problems in life?
And it usually is. It's usually like they're looking at this big, and I was like, okay, what's the one thing you can do right now? Right. One thing that you need to do that you don't want to do. Usually you do that, and a lot of the other crap, it's like dominoes. They fall down. Mm-hmm. It's simple, not easy, right? And even me, I've been in it for 8 years of the self-development, the reprogramming, the neuroscience, and even me, I've just now gotten in the pattern that in conversation with my family, I can block the emotion. So what I do with my clients, I'm not emotionally connected, so I can dissect their language. And I just now I'm at the point where my wife or my kids are talking, and I can disconnect emotionally and see it for what they're saying. Or before I was like, it's so hard. I'm like, you're my daughter. You know this. You've lived with me. But I forgot they lived the first 7 years with my crap still untapped. right? So now I have to go back and deep unprogram all the crap that I programmed in them to set them up for success. So,
Mm.
and it's hard because they're the people you love, and you're like, man, I gave you that crap. That was mine. Like, let's return it. So,
yeah. And like one of my things that I love to ask people is that, who are you within what you do? And that is just always amazes me when they have no idea, because they're so caught up in their title or their job description or their family business or whatever it is that is that programming that we've been talking about since they were kids. Well, who are you outside of that? And it just amazes me. And yet it shouldn't, because that's exactly where I was. I think we always teach what our journey has ourselves, that the journey that we've been on ourselves of self-discovery and being aware, and just some of the things that we do just because we're emotionally attached to it.
Yeah.
That's been my big realization.
Pride
I am emotionally, right? I've been emotionally attached, and it's like, ooh, that's not necessarily a good thing.
Yeah, it can't be wrong. This is how I've always done it.
This is how I've always done it.
My most successful clients are entrepreneurs that are in an industry where the industry is like, we've always done it that way. And they're like, F that.
Yep.
Let's why have we always done this for 100 years? What if we were to change it a little bit?
Mm-hmm.
What if?
And on top of that, they throw their life, their finances, and their butt on the line to challenge the status quo of, we've always done it that way. Those are the entrepreneurs that are making it, because they're changing industries.
Yeah.
Right. They're changing the way things are done. And it's just, it's great to be in the seat that I'm in, because I get to see so many business leaders that are just like, F it, hold my beer. It's like, it's always a hold my beer story. I got $1 million, hold my beer, let's see what we can do. Right.
Yeah.
It's pretty awesome.
Or see what else we can do.
Yeah, exactly.
What else can we do? Yes, we've always done it this way, but what else can we do to further that?
Yeah.
And I think that's where the face of business is changing a little bit, is that we are getting, rather than being in competition with each other, we are starting to collaborate with each other.
Yeah.
And let's see yes, we can do this on our own, but let's see what else we can do together.
I love it. What I heard there is, we're tribal creatures.
We are.
We are in the herd. But then again, based on our programming, are you in the right tribe or the wrong tribe?
Exactly. I think sometimes people try to be in the wrong tribe.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah.
They're trying to be somebody else because that's that's where I was, because that's how my family was.
Yeah.
Well, guess what?
It sucks, right? I remember that. I was in the wrong tribe.
I was in the
tribe where, I had that big vision, the creativity, my head was in the sky. Who are you to be thinking that way? But what I recognized was, I was in the tribe of, Dave, you're taking too many risks. You're scaring us. We can't do what you're going to do. So shut up, sit down, and get in the back.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until like 6 years ago, when I would fall down, I had 6 people around me going, get your ass up, wipe it off, and get in the front again. No, we're not done yet. That's a learning opportunity when you fall down.
Right.
So when you're in the tribe and you fall down, they're like, what'd you learn? Great. Right. Share it with everybody so we don't have to duplicate it, and let's move forward.
Right. And what's the gift in it?
Yeah.
What's the gift in it?
I love it. Yeah.
Because there is a gift in everything that happens to us.
Yeah.
What is the gift? And when you're willing to explore what's the gift, you're making it.
So Dave, in your journey, I mean, you're in this one industry and like the trades, right? And then, so you're around completely different people. How do you go out and create a new tribe?
It's just, you have to go solo for a while. I mean, you just have to figure out who you are. In our programming, we've got 6 pillars. So pillar number 1 is mindset. We got to figure out what your limiting beliefs are, right? And you got to get that crap up and out. We use mental emotional release process, which is a timeline regression, which allows you to identify, I've got anger, sadness, fear, hurt, and guilt. I've got these limiting beliefs that I'm not deserving. I'm not smart enough. I'm not good enough. Money doesn't grow on trees. Money's evil, like all these bullcrap stories that are unconsciously programmed, right? So once you get that out of the way, you can really truly assess the values in the 5 pillars of your life.
Mhm.
And this is key. Every single one of my owners that we have a call and they're kind of upset with a team member, I pull their values up and they're like, and I'm like, look, hey, what I'm hearing you right there is your value number 3. Read that out loud to me. And they'll read it. And I'm like, how did you not protect that value? And they're like, So I'm like, it's not them. It's you allowed them to invade your value. And then now that's why you're angry, because you feel unheard, that kind of stuff.
Unappreciated.
Unappreciated.
Yes.
The list goes on. So to answer
But those
your
people
question,
have no idea. Those people
They
have no idea.
And they have no idea. Exactly.
So a lot of times, like I had a client last night, he was upset with a particular employees. Number 3 is teamwork, team camaraderie, employee relations. I'm like, that's number 3 on his list. And he has a client or a team member that chooses not to come in the office. And so a lot of it was, does she know this is a value of yours? What would gain if she did come in? So we just went through all the process. But to answer your question, Jason, is how do you build your tribe? You got to get your crap off the table. You got to understand your values, and then like people. Once you start aligning with people with similar values, and they don't have to be the exact same, just like my business values are integrity, purpose, prosperity, and fun. So if I can't show up in integrity with my client, like if I feel icky or I have to lie or what, that's not my client.
It's not a fit.
And if I can't follow my purpose to make a positive impact on them, see, and I don't look at my client as that's my client. I look at their community as my client.
Right.
Because if I can change their energetic state and how they show up in the world, it's going to impact 20 to 50 people in their life.
Right.
Period. So once I understand my values, then I start, it's weird. And you walk around in public with your values, you start attracting like people, and they show up.
It's not even work, right?
It's not even work.
Yeah.
And I know, because I've recreated my life in the last 5 years. I've had my business for 5 years, and it's like going out and recreating and just having a new tribe of people. Like me and Barb have become such good friends over the last couple of years, and I didn't know her a couple of years ago.
We didn't know each other.
It was one of those things of starting my business. I had to do a lot of really deep digging into who I was and creating those core values. And once I started living into those core values, it wasn't like I was going around searching for new friends. It was just like all of a sudden conversations I was having, and all of a sudden the people were there and relationships were being built. Like me and Barb met up once and we decided to keep meeting up. And then all of a sudden we've been doing a show for a couple of years, and it's like, it's one of those things. And it's just,
and we've never actually met in person. We've never physically hugged,
Isn't that crazy?
Crazy.
And yet we're best friends.
It's funny. My youngest daughter's boyfriend he's over here all the time, but I have this weird stuff that happens to me. Like I'll go down and get my car washed, and I finally got my dream car back. I've got a 2020 F-150 with a 6-inch lift. It's 35-inch tires, and it's all black on black. It's all blacked out. It's a show truck, right?
Yeah.
And it's fun. I had a big truck before my kids, and my wife's like, "Hey, your business is doing good. Go do it. Go get it." But it's often I'll be there, and of course the boys always walk over. And I can't tell you how many past retired NFL players, business owners, and I'll come home with this amazing story. And Jackson's always like, of course, Dave met that guy. Of course. Like when you show up with that presence, people just want to know about you.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not me bragging. It's just, I've set myself up for these opportunities that people they want to know who I am and what I do. And, I'm not chasing money. I'm not doing it. I want to be a positive impact in the community.
Yeah.
And I live it. I want everyone to live in their greatness.
And I think for me, it's being open to the opportunities, because you never know who knows who.
Yep.
And all of a sudden it's like, oh, wow. I know the first woman in professional baseball has a trainer. I know her. We're great friends.
Yeah.
Wow. It still amazes me. I brag on her all the time.
Yeah.
And but we talk all the time. We're great friends. And it's like, oh, wow, how did that happen? Well, because you have like-minded people, same values.
Yep.
We share the similar values. We share our faith. We share how we feel about people. We share about our helping, that we want to help we want to make a difference in the world.
Yep.
Well, you're going to attract those kinds of people when you put it out there that this is who you are.
Yeah. You want to hear a crazy story?
Love crazy stories.
No, yeah, absolutely. I'm always down.
Yeah. So, last year was a record year for my company in a revenue perspective, but it's been a solopreneur, right? But like you said, I sat down, meditation, mantra, conversation with God, whatever you want to call it. What would it take to get my business in the trajectory to the $1 million business? Because to me, money means impact on communities around the world.
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
So I was like, what would it take? And, I had some struggles. I don't like marketing. I'm dyslexic, so I don't like writing. Thank God we have Chat GPT now, because that's amazing. You can get blog posts done in 10 minutes. It's pretty cool. And they read good. But, I sat there and I was like, what's going on? What has to happen? Who do I need to know? Who do I have to meet? And I helped a gentleman, Coach Simon Harris. He's been a D1 basketball coach for the last 12 years. Amazing gentleman. I helped him as he was coming out of college. And he stepped out of coaching and he knocked on my door. And he's kind of like a brother to me. I used to work with his mom in the tech world. And we started talking. He's like, look, he goes, I think I'm done with coaching. I love what you're doing. What's going on? Next thing I know, he came on board as a partner. We revamped the whole website. We revamped the whole program. We started a new marketing campaign. We've got appointment setters coming in. He started tweeting all about the company. We've been invited to Mardi Gras to be keynote speakers on stage next weekend. And it's like,
dude,
I all I did was ask the question.
Yes.
Right. And be open to the answer.
Yeah.
People be open to the answer.
Yeah. But people, it's funny. It's like, I listen to Dr. Joe Dispenza and he says, there's a specific way to pray, and growing up in the Christian church, I was taught to pray from a space of lack. God doesn't want to hear that.
Yeah.
God wants to say, hey man, look what I created for you. Be grateful and ask me what you want next. And
what else do you want?
Yeah. But you have to ask it a question. And it's like, and I used to get frustrated with that. What was that quote? Tell God your plan, watch him laugh or something like that. I can't remember the exact one, but we get so fixated on it has to happen this way. I was like, what if you just asked for a specific outcome and asked, what's the next step I have to take towards that?
Yep.
I saw another coach the other day. It's like, a lot of us are like, I want the Ferrari. That's the wrong question. What do I have to do? Who do I have to become to obtain a Ferrari?
Yes.
Right.
And my wife and I were having a conversation. She's been in the tech industry for 22 years and she's looking for an exit strategy. And that was that whole question. I kept asking her all weekend, who do you have to become? She would love to join Tap Mental. She's been in customer success in the tech industry. And what I noticed is a lot of these small businesses need a customer success division. And, my question to her is like, what if you became a fractional customer success manager for some of these small businesses? You could go in and help them set up a strategy for success as a fractional. Like they get a day a week. You help them create their playbook. You help them hire these, $50,000, $60,000 people a year to come in and run customer success. Get in and get out. I think that would be a great contribution to our company, a service that we can provide.
It's what I do, Dave. That's what I do. I do it in a
awesome.
sales capacity, and I do that with companies in my sales capacity. But I have a couple of clients where I do give them a day, a week I build their sales structure, their sales process, mentor their sales team, have a voice on the leadership team. So it's so much fun because you have that fingerprint on the company's success, and you're in and you're out. I love change, so it's great to get in, be in that heat, put it in a different spot, and then get out and watch the legacy.
Yeah. Well, the other thing too is I saw this on TikTok a while back, and I've kind of heard about it before, but what if you had customer success strategy sessions with your family every Sunday? Yeah. So we would sit down and I would start as like, hey, I'm nervous about lead generation this week. Cash flow needs to increase. We're trying to do this. And I'll be honest, Dad's nervous. I'm scared. I don't like doing this. I don't know how to do it. So I'm walking blind this week. Here's my steps I'm going to take, and I'll let you guys know how I'm doing. And then I'll go to my daughter, Dylan. Hey, what are you scared of? Oh, softball tryouts are in 2 weeks. I know I'm on a travel team. What if I don't make it? I'm like, okay, well, what do you need to do? And we just talk. We all have stresses on our shoulders. And especially in a family, if you and your wife, collaborate, get your kids involved and really share the vulnerability of where the fears are and help each other. Like, how do I support you this week?
Yeah.
What do you need from me?
Yeah.
So like Dylan's going to the gym 3 times a week, which is a baseball, softball specific. And we just got back from we're going to South Carolina this weekend because our travel team. And, we've already done camps to Georgia State, Tennessee, and all this other stuff. So I'm like, you're worried about making your high school team and you've got the catching coach from University of Tennessee following you on Twitter. Are you, what are we talking about here? Like, where's this fear really coming from? Right. So
yeah,
it's, and I even told my wife, Jennifer, I said, what if we had a small $97 program to help families create success plans for each other?
that's huge.
Right?
That would be huge.
I like if when you start talking about it, I just became all ears. That is genius. That is so genius. That is just sitting down at the table and what are you scared of? And just how much togetherness that brings, how much openness. And you hear all the time, well, we didn't talk about money. Or we didn't talk about, families aren't open and talk about vulnerabilities. And like I can admit, I don't do this. And I would love to bring that vulnerability and openness to the family.
And we've got a little Greek restaurant down the road, and I go down and I pick up gyros and chicken gyros, and they get, pitas and throw it on the table. And in an hour's time, everybody kind of gets 15 minutes to share their worries for the week. Sorry about that.
Yeah,
and we just find ways to support one another, right?
Right.
Yeah.
How do we support you? Because I've got daughters and I want them to experience like what my wife and I have experienced. I'd love for them to get married someday and start their own family, but I don't want them to start the relationship like my wife and I did. I had a dad with PTSD with Vietnam. My wife mom was more of an alcoholic than dad, but it wasn't a peaceful house. So knowing what we knew of the first 10 years of marriage, as we were starting to have children, we duplicated it.
Yep.
It wasn't until one day I was like, what the hell are we doing? When we got together, we bitched and complained about our parents and the house we grew up in. We were creating the same damn environment.
Same thing.
And that's when I was like, you know what? I was so miserable. And I had a good friend of mine that sent me to Landmark for him. And I was like, I got to figure out my crap. And I took off for a weekend and came home. And I was almost in tears and looking at my wife going, I am so sorry. I have been an asshole and I didn't even know it.
Right.
And then she was like, I want some of that. So then she took off. And then I went and did the master one. And then she's like, I want that one too. And then I kept going. I went in and I got my, my coaching certification. Then I went back and met Dr. Matt James, which is the son of Tad James, which is the right-hand man to Tony Robbins. And then I learned all about neurolinguistics and hypnosis and release. And it was like, I want tools. Like I got addicted and obsessed. And once I was able to flip myself, and I was like, okay, I'm going to help my family. And now we just need to go out to the world and really show how easy it is to change, to get what you want.
Yeah. Like I take a thing called Master the Power Within. And it's mind boggling how we can change our relationships by just asking simple questions.
Yeah.
What can I do to support you today?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It's just amazing.
And this happened in our house last week. My wife is very type A honor student. She got some negative feedback last week and removed from an account. Never happened before in her 22-year career. So it was like the world came to an end. And I was like, sometimes there's friction. There just wasn't a team in the team she was in. It just wasn't working.
Yeah.
I said, and so she was worried, well, am I going to get fired? There's all these layoffs, the tech industry and all this other stuff. And I said, here's what you do. You go to your director and you're saying, hey, here are the wins I believe I did while on those accounts. Here's my priorities in which I do my work. And then shut up and say, and then ask them, do those wins apply to you? Do those look like wins to you? And then are my priorities in the right order? If you were to reorganize this, how would you suggest it? And she just came in and she's been stressing for 2 days right before the podcast. She came in, she's like, you were right. Sat down with my manager and I told him, here's the wins. And he's like, look, sometimes there's friction on account and you were friction. I don't make, that's not a ding against you. We're going to move you over to these accounts so that you can be successful. And I think you're on track. Those wins, because she got the SC and the account team on site and she was doing all this cool stuff. And she's like, I'm winning over here. But she just had some people that just didn't like the way she did it.
You can't gel with everybody.
No,
absolutely.
You can't gel with everybody.
Yeah. So,
and I think it comes back to finding your tribe. You can't gel with everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, here's how programmed we are. Right.
Right.
So she had an alcoholic mother that would belittle her every night. And even though we don't like it, it's an energetic state we get in. And then I just started asking her, I said, are you chasing your old programming? And of course, no one wants to hear that crap. And, you know, after 2 or 3 days, and we have a great relationship after 23 years of marriage, she's like, you know what? I think I was unconsciously asking for the beatings. So how do I make it stop? I said, we need to figure out where they came from. They come from your mom, your mom's mom, your dad's dad. Like, I don't know. I mean, they were Irish Catholic, you know, snuck in the country. Her grandfather was part of the IRA, and lots of alcohol. You know, it's crazy. I was like, the other thing I learned is these traumas can be passed 7 generations in your DNA.
Yes.
2 universities have done studies on mice where they'll do shock with scent, and they'll shock a family with like sandalwood, right? Then they'll take those mice out, they'll breed them out 7 generations. None of them will be exposed to the shock treatment, but they'll spray sandalwood. 7 generations out, those mice will start jumping for the cage. So they're already programmed that the odor means this is coming. So whatever micro trauma, like your mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, that could be in you unconsciously and not even know it.
Yeah.
Right.
That's so crazy.
And it's crazy.
It's
But they've
science,
proven
so
it.
it makes so much sense when you think
They've
about
proven
it and you unravel it.
Yeah. So like a lot of our MER process, I'm like, where did this come from? And I always use this analogy. It's like, we got Amazon, man. You can return stuff to the counter at anything, in any state. It's like someone sold you a bag of crap and you took it.
Yeah.
You know what, though? You can box it back up and return it.
Box it back up.
And, you know, a lot of our baggage it's not ours, but we live with it. You know?
Right.
Like, and we're getting more emotionally connected. I had a good friend last night. I think he's very empathetic and very emotional, but he's a badass, right? He went to the Philippines and fought as a fighter and all this other stuff. So I think even though he was heavily emotional, he wanted to overbalance it by being a jiu-jitsu fighter, right? But still at the end of the day, he's coming home and he's like, Dave, everybody come to me, blah, blah, blah. That's like, because you jump into their emotion. And you haven't established the muscle. And it's weird. It's an unconscious muscle. You haven't developed the muscle to hold a space. This is my energy. This is your energy. You know, there's science studies now that we've got energetic, you know, they say it's aura, right? But we do have energy vibrations that come off of us. And certain people are attracted. Hey, that's a good vibration. I want to be in their space.
Yeah.
But if you're not well trained, then you take on their crap. And that's, you know, as I transitioned into coaching, I was very empathetic as well, a very emotional child. What I learned though is now I can be like, oh, I can read their energy. But I also can put a wall up. I'm like, that's yours. This is mine. Let's figure out how you can identify, you know, step 1 is conscious awareness. How do you consciously get to that emotional state? I feel it, so I know you're there.
Yeah.
But now I need to help you recognize how you do it so that you can eliminate and raise it up. And it sounds woo-hooey, but it's
I'm
amazing
so curious.
stuff.
So like working with your daughter with autism, like how did you start that process?
Yeah, we just looked at what I learned through a lot of NLP is we're all just systems and strategies and behavior patterns.
Yeah.
A plus B equals C, right? If there's something going on, she's in a panic state, I would just sit down with her. I was like, okay, you're panicking. So social, she's a very smart kid. She's in a STEM program. I'm very grateful for her and very proud of her. She's going to NASA over spring break. She's part of a catalyst team for STEM and all this other stuff. But I would just sit down with her and it's like, whatever state she's in, what's happening right now is what I'll ask her. Where are you? Like, she's in a panic state. Okay, take me back to the first thought that got us here.
Mhm.
So, like the big thing is someone's like, well, I'm super stressed and I have a lot of anxiety. Great. Here's what's going to happen. I'm going to do anxiety for you today, but I need you to teach me how you do it so I can do it for you.
Mhm.
And now they have to get out of their like conscious and they have to go into, how do I do it? I said over here, step one is conscious awareness. Out of those 60 to 70,000 thoughts, 95% are autopilot.
Mhm.
So a lot of us are just sitting in this energetic state, but we don't know how we got there. I just feel heavy. I'm anxious. I'm overwhelmed. I'm like, okay, how do you do overwhelm? What was the first thought you had that got you to an overwhelmed state? And if you figure out the thought and the process that you took, hey, next time when this comes up, what would you do instead?
Mhm.
Right.
Mhm.
And, it's just like going to the gym. It's like day one, maybe you knock out 5 push-ups. Day 2, you're sore as hell, so you get 3.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm going to take a day off. The next day I got 5 again. Day
Yep.
after I got, and then, but over time, you're like, man, I just knocked out 20 push-ups. I just knocked out 50 push-ups.
Yep.
So it's the unconscious identification. It's constantly going to the gym. And then here's the thing is everyone's like, I want all the problems gone. That's impossible. Like you were saying earlier, Barbara, problems are gifts. They're learning
Problems are gifts.
opportunities. And, you have to just embrace. Once you solve a problem, it's like, all right, bring on the next one. What's
Yeah.
next? What am I going to learn? For me, coming from a world of dyslexia, and I got tested my junior year in high school of a reading level of a second grader. So you can imagine the internal self-talk of how stupid I was.
Oh, man. Yeah.
But here's the deal. My junior year in high school, anybody that needed a car stereo installed with amplifiers and subwoofers and all that, they were at my door because I could construct the loudest box. I knew how to get the hertz and the frequencies. I could get the right wattage. And so it's like, I never
You had your
connected the
zone
dots.
of genius.
I identified myself as being smart if I could read and comprehend.
Yeah.
Right.
What
Yep.
dyslexia gave me was the visual, conceptual, mathematical ability to see cause and effect beginning to end. And that's what makes me a great coach. When they bring a problem like, oh, this is affecting this part of your business, this part of your business, this part of your business. We fix this here, and then give these people power here. And they're like, holy crap. I'm like, yeah.
Imagine if we empowered our kids and taught this in schools, period.
Yes.
As opposed to, reading, writing, all that stuff's important to, but you're judging yourself on certain skills and you have gifts in other areas and you're applying, right?
Yeah. That's the one thing I'm doing my best to teach my children because there's rules in school.
Yeah.
And an entrepreneur mind believes in bending rules. We know we need orders for structure and discipline, right? But it's that same thing because we've always done it that way. That's where we started, right? But that's a rule, but it's unwritten. And the one thing I've challenged my kids with is like, hey, challenge the rules. Don't be disrespectful about it.
Yeah.
But my daughter Dylan, she's been playing 18U softball since she was in 8th grade. We've traveled all around the United States. And what I've given her is the foundation to have a voice.
Yeah.
So like she was in a business class last semester and it was up and down and up and down. She hated the teacher. Teacher's an a-hole. Great. You're going to deal with a-holes the rest of your life. They're always going to be there. Let's learn how to win. How do you win? And so she would just develop strategies. She'd talk with me and then she'd figure out how to navigate the class. And she figured out the game. The one thing I love to tell my clients is there's those that are playing the game, those that aren't. Then there are those that don't even know it exists.
Mhm.
If you played life like a game,
Yeah.
and it's like you woke up every day, how do I win today?
Right.
So, my daughter and I got her to the point where she went around, she got her schedule. They just started semester 2 and she went around before the semester started, interviewed all the teachers that she had. And she came home. She's like, Dad, this one's an asshole. This one's an asshole. I'm like, what are you going to do? She went right to her counselor and said, I heard this class would be better for me. And she rearranged her whole schedule to fit her personality to fit her learning style on her own. She didn't call mommy, daddy, come fix it for me.
Yeah.
And I still come to her rescue a lot. So I am guilty of that. But what I'm trying to do is empower my kids. You have a voice.
Yeah.
If you don't like it, talk about it. right?
Right.
So through that, she got a bad grade. She'd go in and say, hey, obviously this didn't connect with me. I didn't get the learning. I don't know if it's the way you presented or the way I learned. Is there any extra credit I can do so that these low scores I got on this test, I can embrace that learning and then we can get my grade back up? She did that every time. Hey, I screwed up this section. I want to learn it. They gave her extra credit on everything. She came in with a 4.0. I'm like, and she's not the smartest student. She just knows how to play the game.
Yeah.
And when I talk to students in her area, I said, look, that's real life stuff.
That's real life stuff.
Right.
That's real life stuff.
Business isn't like I got in an argument with a homeschool mom. It's like, well, that's not real world. I'm like, because there's deadlines on papers. And she's like, well, we don't do deadlines. We don't do this. And I'm like, look, if I've got a $10,000 offer on the table for an opportunity and I don't get that proposal due on Friday, they're going to be like, this dude ain't serious. And that 10 grand is gone. That's real life stuff.
Yeah.
So no, when there's a deadline, there's a deadline.
Right. And I think for me, it's just being aware of the rules, aware of how they apply to you, which rules apply to you and which ones don't.
Exactly.
And so often we get caught up in someone else's rules.
Yep.
Been there, done that. It's like, yeah, no, quit doing that, Barbara. That's their rule.
It's their rule. It's not mine.
That's their rule.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
Not a big fan of rules.
I never liked, I know the need for them. And then when I went in and we went to Master Prac, we had a whole study on our colors of emotions and rule following and all that. And, and I was diagnosed that I hate rules, right?
Yeah.
Because I was that kid that's like, I want to build a ramp. You can't do that. Watch me.
Watch me.
I built skateboard ramps. I built stereos. It's like, you can't do that. Watch me, And my engineering degree was, my dad said at the table, what are we going to do when this kid flunks out? Oh yeah. Watch me. I've never been a good student, but I'm going to prove you wrong, and I was on Dean's List twice, and it's what I learned though, is I built my foundation of my journey on watch me. So it was more of a get me against the world.
Yeah.
And my energetic shift is, what if the world supported me on my journey because of what I contribute, what I give back, and how I empower?
Yeah.
That shifted everything. Instead of double middle fingers at the world, I was like, what if I opened up for a hug? Which again goes woo-hooey, but you know what? It's simple, not easy.
Yeah, absolutely.
What's cool, because this is very similar to my path. I succeeded because I was defiant and was like, F you to the people that told me that I couldn't succeed, and like came out of, and so I reached a success to that level, but life is just so much happier now, like life is so much like more empowering. I feel like there's so much more light, and I feel like the ceiling has been lifted.
Yeah. Which is scary too. If you haven't, like I was telling Barbara, like I grew up in a stressful household. I'm under like adrenal fatigue protocol right now because I love to embrace stress. This is the last thing I'm working on. And I believe I'm sick is because at the beginning of the year, I started adrenal fatigue protocol. And when you bring your cortisol down, cortisol is fight or flight. It protects you and all this other crap. As soon as I brought it down, within 30 days, my body's like, oh yeah, we're not fighting. Okay. Yeah. And then I got sick.
Yeah.
And then I was angry. I was like, oh no, this is the 30-day witness that it's working. I'm getting back to that peace. I'm getting back to that. And, the symbols and the signs are always there. And just a lot of times we don't have our eyes open to see them.
Right. Yeah. We're just not aware. That's one of my big thing is just be aware of what's going on around you and how you are. And like for myself, how am I contributing to what's going on around me?
Yeah. Am I a good participant? Am I helping? Am I hurting?
Am I helping, or am I like, oh, maybe this was not quite the way I could handle this? And that is huge.
Yeah.
And how like when I'm taking a program right now, and it's like, where did this behavior start? That I've had to recognize some of the behaviors that I have that where did this start?
Yeah.
Oh. And when the light bulb, oh, that's when that started. That emotional trauma, that emotional of now I'm using that emotion to handle other things. Yeah, well, no, Barbara, we need to work on this.
Yeah.
Because this is not healthy for you, and it's not contributing to my impact around me.
Yeah.
And so, but
100%.
it's a learning thing. And I think that's the biggest thing, is just be open to the learning.
Yeah.
Be
And that's
open
the one
to
thing I
learning.
learned on my journey is, I can't remember the lady's name from the NLP Foundation over the years. Her belief was that everyone kept asking her, why do you go into the jail system? And her belief was there's no such thing as a bad person.
Right.
It's just people have acquired bad patterns, and strategies.
Right.
So
bad programming.
Yeah. So it's like, I don't talk to them as a bad person. I look at the strategy and the pattern behaviors that they've acquired, and I talk to that.
Yeah.
So I think I heard you say something in there. It's like, we'll find ourselves in a position and we don't even know why. It's like,
Right.
like you're fighting against what?
What?
Like we were just saying, it's like them and they. Well, who?
Right.
Who?
Who's they?
Who's they?
Who's all of them? I love
Right?
that process too, when someone's like, everybody, like,
Yeah.
all of them. Like,
I had a client, she's like, I'm drinking too much wine when I go out with my girls. And I was like, well, what if we went out and just had one glass of wine and then went to club soda? She's like, well, what will they think? I'm like, who's they?
Who's they?
Like, you're going to go have one glass of wine? She was like, you're telling me you're tired of, feeling like crap the next day. One glass is good. Two glasses makes you kind of hungoverish. Like, stop at one. And she kept going into they. I'm like, what? Who specifically? And if they're going to talk down to you because you won't have two glasses, I think you're in the wrong tribe.
You're in the wrong tribe.
You're in the absolute wrong tribe. I had this client this time that he was just so much anxiety around when he would hang out with his friends. He'd have to pretend like he was somebody different than who he was. And he'd be afraid to say that he wanted to go home because he was tired, because they wanted to hang out late, and like all these things. And it's just like, if you showed up and you were actually who you were, you're actually you, 100% you, do they dislike you? And he's like, they might. And I'm like, so why do you hang out with them? If they if it's so much work and it's so much anxiety, it's literally causing you stress and pain. Either you be yourself and either they like you or they don't. And then you find out your answer. But if they don't like you, who you really are, then they're not worth hanging out with.
No.
Right.
Yeah, I've got some friends that are, recovering alcoholics. And one of my things is I've got a nice screening porch with a fire pit. And my fallback is I love a Crown Royal and a cigar. But when my buddies come over, I pull out the cherry soda, Zevias, the caloric free, and we put that on ice and we smoke our cigar.
Yeah.
Like, I don't have to do alcohol with a cigar.
Yeah.
So when friends come over and we want to just shoot the shit, and I was like, hey man, cigars are out in the back. I got drinks. You want cherry? You want Dr. Like, what do you want? And we can still have fun. We don't need alcohol.
Yeah.
But here's the thing is, I don't want to make them sit there and drink alcohol in front of, like, that's not a friend.
No, that's not a friend.
Right. And I'll celebrate them. It's like, dude, that's awesome. People that are overcoming their struggles, people kick them when they're down. I'm like, no, man, like, keep it up. Congratulations. Like, I don't know what it's like for you to not have to not do that. That's not a problem for me. So I can't really connect with them, but at least I can have empathy for where they are and support their journey. Right. And I think that's what we're missing in the world. Everyone has their own crap. How do we just support them on their journey?
Empathy. It's that key word.
Empathy. Exactly. Yeah. We've all been there in some way.
Yeah.
We've all been, because how we got to where we are now is we went through some stuff.
You got to go through some stuff.
You've got to go through some stuff. So, Dave, this has been awesome. We'll have to have you.
Conversation.
We'll have to have you on again. We'll have to do podcast swaps and just.
Absolutely. I'd love to have you on my podcast, Coffee and Grit, too. That'd be awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd love to bring Simon too.
That'd be awesome. Yeah.
He's been a game changer for me. He has a lot of empathy as well. He's coached girls basketball collegiate level for 12 years and has had really good record. So he understands that whole femininity, masculine, being masculine with the feminine, and how to be a supporter. He's got 2 younger sisters, so I've got a younger sister as well. But we just vibe.
That's so awesome. That's so cool, man. I'm so excited for you and what you're building over there.
Yeah, so we're excited to see what we can do this year. We're really excited.
Anyways, well, Dave, this has been great. We're gonna have to have you back.
Love it. Anything you missed from me? Anything that I wasn't able to provide?
This was a wonderful conversation.
Wonderful.
Perfect.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Well, thank you for having me. I mean, this was a great platform. Jason, it was a pleasure meeting you. And Barbara,
Absolutely.
I met you before
Pleasure
the holidays, and your energy is off the chart.
Yeah.
When you told me your age, I was like, can you talk to my wife? Because I'd love to see my wife like you at the same. I think we're on the right track, but
yeah. I feel better now in my 70s than I did even 10 years ago. So
my wife's she's like, the girls are out of here in 3 years. What's it take to get our bikes to Moab? What would it take to paddleboard down in Costa? Like, she's got it planned. She's like, you better get this business to a part where you're only working Tuesday through Thursday, because I got plans. Like, we're traveling. I was like, all right.
Exactly.
That's how you stay young.
That is.
Yeah.
So
it's just
awesome.
So awesome.
All right. Everybody, welcome. You've been listening to the Everyday Riches Show. And so today I just really encourage you to go and find your riches today in your everyday. So everybody, we'll see you next week. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.